So I've actually prepared, since I'm not very good at speaking off the cuff. So I guess my story begins with the Audio Research Group in early 1992. As a fourth-year physics student at UNB, I'm sure I did the usual thing of a lot of fourth-year students who had thought they would like to go on and pursue further education and do a master's degree. So I did the usual thing of asking for and receiving several university pamphlets, because this is before the days where you could just Google programs. You actually had to get paper. And so I had all sorts of various course catalogs from various universities across Canada. And I came across the one from the University of Waterloo. And I was flipping through it, reading, and then flipped one page and then thought for a second, flipped back and went, "You can do this?" And it was one of those, epiphanies going off, realizing that there was actually, a place in Canada to do research in this area. Prior to this, I really had no idea that you could do this. I've always been interested in audio systems. As a lot of the folks here have mentioned, being involved in the radio station. Didn't do that at Waterloo, but certainly I was back at UNB. So I thought it was a natural fit, and I applied to the program, and was accepted, and started in September '92. I recall a lot of my first term was trying to figure out what would make a good thesis project. I was interested in surround sound, and if we think back to the early '90s, this was when a lot of the new digital systems were just coming out. So Dolby had theirs, and DTS had one, and I think Sony at the same time. So there was a real sort of explosion in new types of methods in surround sound. So I knew I was interested in that, but didn't quite know, where to put that energy. So I talked to John and Stan and got, I think, maybe a stack of papers this tall that I mostly read, or at least perused at a very high level, and found a few that were talking about ambisonics, a few that John and Stan had written, a few that Michael Gerzon had written, and thought, this is cool. This is something that I could do. So ended up spending basically the next 2 years in computational analysis of ambisonic sound systems, with a slight detour into a project that John and I did with IMAX in the winter of 1993. So after 2 years of doing computational research, it was time to write my thesis, which took a few months. And I think as I'm written here, I realized I didn't quite know as much about grammar, sentence composition, and commas. Sorry, Stan. I know it was one of those things. It was a bit of baptism by fire, and I'm certainly very happy that I went through that, because I'm sure I'm a much better writer now than I was prior to writing a thesis. So after that and an oral defense, I completed my work in, this would have been early 1995, and graduated May of that year. So my time at Waterloo has given me an excellent background into the field of audio. While I obviously focused on one particular aspect, I was exposed to many other areas. As Ewan said, that there was a great camaraderie among the students, and we certainly were aware of what our fellow students were doing. And certainly, this was about the time I also was beginning to get interested in the AES. I remember going to my first AES meeting at George Brown. This probably '94. So that has also helped a lot as well. As a consultant, one of the things that you need to learn is how to relate these complex audio and audiovisual systems to various levels of people. Obviously most of the people in this room have a really great understanding of audio, but that's not the general population. So it really does help to be able to take complex ideas and be able to discuss them in a manner that everyone can understand. So certainly appreciate that background. So my time at the Audio Research Group was invaluable in giving me a broad range and exposure to audio systems. A lot of the work I did was in computation analysis, which was certainly invaluable for a lot of my early work and engineering harmonics and in designing loudspeaker systems. And I'm sure that it was this thorough analysis that assisted me in starting with that organization. Never underestimate the ability of being able to take a technical idea and write about it, in a way that everyone can understand. So thanks to John and Stan for the opportunity in studying with you. And I'd also like to thank Earl McCluskey for the vision and drive he put into putting together this evening. Thank you.